Hello everybody, welcome to a honestly quite serious subject matter, and I'm not even gonna joke about it. What we're gonna talk about today is sexual harassment of women in esports, specifically Dota, and I guess kind of like gaming in general. Now, let me go and start out by saying one thing. I'm not really a great person to talk about it. Kind of for maybe an obvious reason. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a problem here. However, here's the thing. So why am I not a great person to talk about it? Because I'm not personally affected by it, right? I'm only as so far affected in the way that I care about people. You know, I'm empathetic, and I think that people should be treated, especially women, should be treated better than they currently are. But at the same time, I'm also still not personally affected by it, making it a little bit more difficult for me to talk about it. So why am I talking about it at all? I'm talking about it because I have an audience. And now, I want to kind of be very clear about this. Please listen to what I'm about to say, right? There's going to be some of you that are going to go into the comments right now and start typing something about angry feminists and probably Anita Sarkeesian. She's got nothing to do with this, but you will probably type about her for some weird reason. If that's you, goodbye. There's the door. Honestly, I don't want you here. I don't need you part of my community. You are a piece of trash. Goodbye. Good. Now that those people are gone, we can actually have a proper conversation. So, what's the problem? Okay. I've been looking at social media, right? Specifically, you know, like Reddit and all of that stuff. But over the past 2 days, there have been there've been a variety of things that pop up. So let me go and nope, that's not the right scene. Let me just go in here. Okay, we're just gonna use this scene for it. So here's first of all, here's a post on the Dota 2 subreddit which talks about can we talk about the sexual harassment that women face in Dota 2 esports? So here's this one. Magic the Gathering artist Noah Bradley writes apology for being a sexual predator at industry events. Dozens of women have levied sexual assault allegations towards several Twitch streamers, YouTubers, gaming/esports personalities, and gaming industry personnel. Oh, you might be like, oh, wow, that's a bulk. One of that over the past few days, like what's happened there? Well, people started speaking out. Like, that's always the important thing to keep in mind about these things, right? So maybe start with that, right? Like, something that I see people say a lot when something like this happens is, you know, like, oh, why is it a problem all of a sudden now? No, these problems have always existed. It's just people are actually speaking out about them now. That's the thing. People are now willing to actually say things about them. Now, I don't know if you saw me on Twitter, but, like, I wrote some grumpy tweets about it where it was kind of like, how fucking hard is it to not be a sexually harassing shithead? How hard is it to understand that if you're in a position of power and authority, you're not in a position to pursue sexual encounters from people below you? This is really the core thing that I would like to discuss today. So what I don't want to do is I do not want to get into the individual things. Right? So like right here, for example, you've got Sayadine and Moxie and Rainessa and Kips and whoever. Right? There's a TI7 after party. And I do not want to get into these details. That I don't think is really right for me to do. What I want to be is I want to be a bit more broad. And I also want to really specifically talk about the Dota 2 subreddit. Okay? This thing right here is something that's been bothering me for a long time. So something that I have called out before is that a few, probably months ago at this point, somebody posted a big thread that was basically like, can we talk about sexual harassment of women in Dota? And it was upvoted top post on the same front page. All right, there was a picture of a gender-bent troll warlord that was titled Troll Whorelord. All right? There was nothing nothing that would indicate that on the image. The only thing about the image was that it was a female version of Troll Warlord. So it was called Troll Warlord. I'm pronouncing that so weirdly, so the difference is clear. That image was on the front page at the same time. Funnily enough, currently, yesterday, oh, wrong scene, there we go. Can we talk about the sexual harassment that women face in Dota 2 Esports? And then just above it, and it's been above it the whole time, we all know which battle pass is superior, you simps. And it's this. The problem here is this sort of hypocrisy, where on the one end you have people upvoting these things saying that they agree and that they want to say, yes, there is an issue here. On the other hand, they are perpetuating this issue and there's nothing actually being done within the context of the subreddit. Now, let me explain why this is a problem. There's something called a microaggression. Okay? Now, a microaggression is something small. So, for example, you might say, you might have I don't know, have a group of buddies hanging out and then one of their girlfriends goes into the kitchen and one of them might joke, ha, that's where women go. Something small like that. Or in Dota, and again, I'm going to go with this very harmless one, where it's always women go back into the kitchen. That's something very small. On its own, it's pretty minor. That's why it's a microaggression. The problem is that these things add up. And they add up really quickly. This goes for everybody, right? Anytime you make a joke about black people and watermelons or chicken wings, anytime you joke about how Asians, as if that's really, a helpful descriptor. I don't know. I don't like the term Asians too much because it's such a broad group of people. Asians groups together, people from Southeast Asia, the Philippines, for example, and then Japan and China, and it's just so fundamentally different. But anyway, but how they are good at math and they should be doing math. Is it individually bad? It's more about creating an uncomfortable climate. And that's exactly what this is, right? Now you might be saying, wait, the joke goes the exact other way, right? The joke here is that the 2019 Battle Pass is superior because look at that chunky axe. And then look at these weak-ass women. That might be what you're saying here, right? That might be where you're going with this. But it doesn't work that way. The thing is that the only reason why this joke works in the first place is because the sexualization of the female characters is a base assumption. It is already assumed that these characters will be sexualized. And so joking about how we're going to sexualize Axe in the same way is funny. Which again is more that kind of microaggression. These problems compound. It's not about any individual one, it's about a lot of them. I recommend that if this is the first time you've really thought about this, is that you make a conscious effort as you go through gaming community, as you go through language, and pay attention to that, right? Try and see like where those specific moments are. And this is where we kind of go back to stuff like this. Can we talk about sexual harassment that women face in Dota 2 esports? This is not okay in any way. What's really important here, what's really important to understand, is that there's lots and lots and lots of minor things that happen in Dota and in the Dota community that make it uncomfortable for women to be in it. And if you read through this list, you will see that the majority of these are relatively small elements. But that doesn't mean that even though they are just small, that they are okay or acceptable in any regard. The size of the incident at this point isn't so much the concern. It is more the concern that these kind of things are happening in the first place. Now, something that I saw that was popping up a lot, for example, is that at events you would have male casters or personalities approaching smaller people, like women that had either no audience or smaller audience. And as such, the problem here is really that there is a position of power. So this is where it gets really tricky. But in any sort of relationship, and I'm explicitly talking about something that's of like a sexual nature, you need to be very careful about power differences, right? Like how that plays out. So, and communication is like honestly super important for a lot of these things. So, in our realm, viewers and attention are money and power. I know it may sound a little weird, but if I am a streamer, I'm a YouTuber, right? If I upload a YouTube video about Dota, it gets 20,000 views minimum. That's just kind of how it usually is. Used to be a bit more than that, but that's where we're at right now. Now, if I was to talk to somebody that has less viewers than me, I have the power of helping them grow, but they don't really have the power of helping me grow. It is really important to understand that I am in that situation a person of authority. I have more I can demand from them because they have more that they can gain from me. And that distinction is really critical, especially if you're talking about something that's a very tightly knit community like the professional Dota 2 esports scene. Now, if you're a professional player, let's set those aside. But if you're talking about kind of like the caster personality space, that is a very tightly knit community that it is very difficult to get into. And it's not entirely about ability. There's lots of great casters that never really broke out and never really made it into the upper echelon. Or they did echelon? Anyway, they worked very hard and they didn't really get anywhere. And that's because they weren't able to break into this tightly knit scene. Now, if you are somebody that is trying to get in there, which is very likely if you are engaging with these kind of events and with these kind of personalities, and they are communicating with you, they are in a position of power by default. And that makes things really difficult.
Get your hot dogs here!
Hey, to be or not to be, thanks for the 20 months. That makes things really, really difficult because it makes it so that overall consent can become a little bit tricky. this is where it gets really difficult, but try to bear with me, okay? And by the way, like if I'm anyway, so I'm trying to think through what I'm saying to make sure that what I'm saying is the right thing to say. If I hold power over you in this sort of professional setting, I can use this power multiple ways. I can use it to help, but I can also use it to damage you. In a tightly knit community, and I am the in, you are the out, but you want in. If I engage with you, now you are up to my mercy, because I can decide to tell the others that are in to let you in, or I can tell the others that are in to make sure you stay out. And that is very, very difficult to coincide, like to have at the same time, and make sure that that doesn't and have that at the same time as pursuing outside relationships, right? So I find it frustrating that people don't understand that power is really, really significant for whether or not a sexual relationship is acceptable. And you need to be aware of the power situation between you and your partner. And if there's a large gap, it is best to stay away from it. For a long time, we had kind of this rule when we were playing Legends of Dota, right? Where in Legends of Dota, you could, this is going to sound a little weird, but bear with me. In Legends of Dota, you can create builds for your hero, some of which are drastically more powerful than others. And so what we would do is we would make sure that we're all playing on the same power level. And there would be a lot of trust that would need to go along with that, right? And if one person decides to instead say, no, actually, you know what, I wanna play up here, then everything else doesn't really work. Now I was going somewhere with this. These kind of like differences in power, right, need to be very carefully considered. If you don't, trying to think this through. Okay, let. Oh man, this is a really difficult subject matter. I'm trying to talk about this in a way that like might reach some people that don't already agree. You know what I mean? I'm also trying to talk about this just so people know what is okay and what isn't okay. Oh yes, I remember where I was going with this. Generally speaking, in our Legends of Dota games, we had a rule, which was, if you have to ask if the power level is okay, it's probably not okay. If you have to ask, is this difference fine? It's probably not fine. And you should probably reconsider what you're doing. And that's the same thing that's kind of true here. If you are in a situation where you're considering, well, is this a relationship that would be okay if pursued? If that's a question you have to ask, it's probably best to stay away from it. And I know that seems a bit shitty to say that, right? But with these kind of things, you have to be careful because you might be hurting people. It's not about you. You are already in a position of power. You are already privileged. It is about the other party that might feel like they have no choice. And that can be really, 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 really difficult to deal with. I mean, everybody has problems like that, right? Like, everybody has been pressured into doing something that they didn't want to do. It's happened to me too. I think I'm usually somebody that's like got a really strong kind of like, no, if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. But so when I was in New Zealand, right? And it was kind of like the end of my stay there, and then Mickey and I were gonna come back to Germany here. I got sick, and I didn't feel good. I didn't feel good at all. All right. And I said to myself, like, and I said to Mickey and her mother, I know I'm really sorry. I know we wanted to go do things, but we're gonna have like 36-hour flight ahead of us, and I would rather just rest and get better. And they were like, nah, it's fine. He just takes some medicine, right? Like, I don't want to blame Mickey. It was mostly her mother. Her mother was mostly like, take some medicine. I'm like, I don't really want to take any medicine. I just want to rest. I know my body. I know if I just rest, I'll get better. And she's like, take the medicine. And eventually, because I didn't want to be the guy, like it felt like, God, I didn't really feel like I had a choice. So I took the medicine. It made me feel better for the day. Now, afterwards, I felt terrible. And I regretted it the whole time. And honestly, to be completely honest, I resent her. Like, I resent Mickey's mother for that to this day. I'm still mad at that. I don't think I'll ever not be mad at that. Because it felt to me like my bodily autonomy was taken away from me. Even though I could have just said no. And that's because in that moment, I felt like I had little power. I felt like I didn't really have much I could do. Right? And that's a very small thing. Right? That was just me, like, not wanting to ruin the fun. Now, imagine, like you're in a position where somebody that can seriously benefit you or seriously hurt you. And they are approaching you with sexual propositions that you don't feel comfortable about. That can be really, really difficult. And this is really where this kind of stuff comes in. This is what you need to understand, right? You might say, but, like, why didn't they say no? No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. If you are the person in a position of power, you have the responsibility and the privilege to make the right choice. And you have to make that right choice. That is your duty. And you cannot feign ignorance afterwards. You may pretend that you didn't know there was a power difference. But if you are a streamer that gets 20,000 viewers, and then you're talking to a smaller streamer, like a female streamer, and she gets 200, you need to be aware of your position. If you are at a Dota event and you were just on stage casting the event, keep your dick in your pants until you're home. What you should be doing is you should be realizing this difference in power between you and other people and be a goddamn professional about it. And just go on a date with somebody that doesn't fucking know you. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Right? It's okay. If you don't get to have sex on that night, you will survive. It is not a requirement for you. But you might be seriously hurting somebody that in that moment might not even be realizing that they are seriously being hurt. Because it is easy to justify in that moment that, nah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's so easy to feel like you're doing the right thing in the moment and then afterwards regret it. And it is your responsibility as a person in power to make sure that that doesn't happen. And that's where these people failed. That's the problem. You cannot feign ignorance. You cannot say, oh, I thought it was consensual. You cannot say, oh, it wasn't a big deal. Because that's not what it's about. I'm sorry, didn't want to make a video like this, but it really pisses me off. It's not that hard. If you are, like, I have had viewers for a long time. I have gone to many Dota events and never fucking once did I even think about like doing anything with a viewer. Because in those kind of parasocial relationships, go look it up. A parasocial relationship is something where a person that watches you feels like they know you deeply. Like a lot of you probably think they know me deeply, but I don't know you. I have no idea about you, right? But because I know that you think you know me deeply, I can use that. I have power over you. I can manipulate you. And so it is my duty and my responsibility to make sure I do not do that. Sorry, it's just I really worked myself up there towards the end there. It's just really disappointing. And at the same time, this is where the Dota 2 subreddit is a giant failure. And I have said this before, but the moderation is the biggest problem. The fact that I can go on the Dota 2 subreddit and you have this upvoted to the top, and right next to it, you have shit like this right here. You have whole weeks where all people are doing is posting essentially fucking porn of the characters. And I'm not exaggerating here. You know this has happened. If you follow the subreddit, you know that as the Anti-Mage and Wind Ranger Persona came out, people have been posting what is essentially just like softcore porn. You allow that, you don't moderate it, and at the same time, you wonder why the community is just so hostile towards women, so hostile towards minorities. If you allow bigotry, you will invite bigots. It's that simple. That's why I asked at the start of this video that the bigots leave the building. Anyway. That's, do I have anything else? Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it. Oh. Hold these people accountable. If you hear this stuff, and if you hear this about, let me use somebody that I think everybody agrees is a piece of shit, which is Noah Bradley, right? Everybody loved Noah Bradley until this stuff came out, and then everybody is just like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Do not let this slide. If you like Noah Bradley, which I assume most of you don't, but if you like Noah Bradley, and you look at this stuff and then you say, whatever, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. You're wrong. It is time to let those people go. To change culture, you need to replace the people that are the problem. If you've supported Noah Bradley before, then that's going to be the end of that. If you want to make sure it's a statement, you do not support that guy anymore. You do not, I don't know if he's got a Patreon or whatnot, but you don't hire the guy, you don't give him money. It's that simple. Right? Anyway. Look, if you want to look into the Noah Bradley shit, just go on the Magic the Gathering subreddit. Right? I bring up Noah Bradley because, all of the other things, again, I don't want to get into the details, but the Noah Bradley one is one there. Everybody is just like the whole community, everybody is pretty decidedly on the side that that guy is just a piece of shit. So yeah. Anyway. So again, Noah Bradley isn't related to the Dota community, but that's because I didn't want to specifically call anyone out in the Dota community. I could, but I won't. You know why I won't? Because I don't have any first-hand experience. I only have second-hand reports. I have a few, but I don't want to be going around, making I don't want to be that. I don't like doing second-hand reporting. But I just wanted to make sure that this message is clear. Okay. All right, that's that. Goodbye.